you are gonna need a brown paper bag. This can be, you know, like those lunch bags that are brown paper bags that you can get from like the dollar store, Walmart, Target, any of those kind of places. It could be something like that, or it could be a brown paper grocery bag. And then you need some paint that's in dark colors. Just use, you know, some red, black, navy, or brown paints, a pencil, and like a crayon or chalk or something like that. All right, so with this project, you're just gonna use like these kinds of paints, a pencil, a crayon, or like some chalk or something like that. On your project, I provided some sample images of cave painting and so forth for you to look at for reference. We're gonna follow some steps, so I'm gonna walk you through that. So let's go ahead and get started on this project. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my brown paper bag and I'm gonna take the side that doesn't have a seam. So if you look, most brown paper bags, they have like a seam, but you can use the seam side if you want to. I don't want to. So I'm gonna cut, oops, wrong side. I'm gonna cut my brown paper bag out. So now I've got my brown paper bag, one of those sides cut out. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to tear. So I just cut it out to make it easier to tear. So I'm just kind of tearing my edge, but I'm slowly doing it. And it creates this really cool kind of an edge there. I don't know if you guys can see that. So it kind of gives it kind of a fun rustic, it gives it a kind of fun rustic look. All right, so you see how I've got my edges, okay? So I've got them kind of rough and old looking. All right, so next thing I'm going to do, with a pencil first, I'm gonna lightly kind of sketch my little cave painting styles on there before I actually paint it, okay? So I'm just gonna do some of these designs. I gave you guys some sample images on there that you can look at and get some inspiration from, okay? And I'm just gonna lightly put my little cave art stuff on there. So when I'm happy with what I have, then I'm gonna go over it with paint. I'm just gonna use some brown. Okay, so I'm going to paint my little figures that I penciled in here, okay? With cave art is it's very rustic line type drawing type thing, so it's not very detailed painting, so it's painting like that. You want to make sure your colors are kind of like darker colors, because if you think about what they used for paint, they didn't have all the bright colors that we have. They made their paint out of things they found in nature. So whether that be like, you know, mud or squished up berries or something like that, like their paint was based on things that they found in the earth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this dry and then we'll do the next step. All right, so by this point, you should have your cave art that's painted and dry. And now we're gonna pick up with step 2. Step 2, once your paint dries, you're now going to crinkle your paper and wad it up into a ball. But you wanna do it so this part is like on the outside. Does that make sense? So I wanna kind of, like, you don't wanna like ball it up like this, because then the next step isn't gonna work. So I wanna make sure I'm balling it up where all of this is showing, okay? And just take your time with it. And you're just gonna wad it up into a ball, okay? All right, and you see how my the painting that I did, those edges, you can kind of see that in here. All right, so you see that, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna take a crayon. You can also do this with charcoal or something like that if you don't have, you know, a crayon or whatever. I'm going to use the white one because, you know, we never use the white crayon for anything. Like, what's the purpose of a white crayon? Well, we're about to use the white crayon for this. All right, so I took the wrapper off. You guys see that? And what I'm going to do now that I've wadded my paper up, I'm going to, like these edges that are kind of showing, I'm gonna color on them. And you gotta do it, you know, it takes a little while to get it to color, but if you can see, it's starting to rub off on there. You can see that. So you're just doing it on those edges that are exposed. All right, when you're happy with that, okay, so when you're happy with coloring all of your edges, whoops, I missed a spot. Get that edge right there. All right, when you're happy with that, we're gonna do step 4, and we are going to, we're gonna unwrap it. There. So when you're done, you see where we made our marks with the crayon. It gives it that look where it kind of looks like a cave wall a little bit, okay? Now, an optional step you can do at this point is you can actually splatter paint on this if you want to. You can add some splatters of paint to add some like age to it if you want to, or you can just take a picture of this and turn it in. Okay, so I've got my paint from the other day, and if I wanted to splatter, I'll show you how you can do that. You want to have it really wet, okay? So let's see, I'm going to use this kind of reddish brown color. So you want that paint to be pretty wet, okay? Now there's a couple of ways to do this. One way is you actually can take your like brush and you can use your thumb and pull back the bristles and then release them and it'll like splatter. The other way is what I'm getting ready to show you. Okay, so you want some nice wet paint. Got some nice wet paint there, okay? Set that to the side. And then I'm gonna take my finger like this, and I'm going to tap my brush on my finger. And it does that. Do you see the splatters? That's that last step. So if you have paint and you can do this, this is what you would do, okay? And then you're done. So this is the last step. So let this dry like this if you did the splatter step. And then you're gonna take a picture of this and you're gonna turn that in and then also take a selfie with it. Thanks for joining us today for Art with Mrs. Kapp. I hope you enjoyed this demo and I look forward to having you join us again in the future.